discretion when it comes to juveniles. So if the juveniles are direct files over from juvenile court, the judge has the discretion to send that case right back. And I'm going to have Renee talk a little bit more about that. But with reform and criminal justice, I'm the type of judge that will use discretion.
So to address the first part of the question regarding using your discretion, I think that as a prosecutor for the last 13 years, I've had the responsibility of using my discretion in terms of determining what type of cases were going to be filed if the evidence was brought forth legally and determine whether or not that person would be charged. So discretion is something that I hold dear to me, and I think that I have an obligation as a judge to follow the rules and the law, but I also have the ability to understand that there's a behind the scenes. In terms of your second part of the question, I specialized for 4 years in sexual and physical abuse of children under the age of 11. So this was my bread and butter for a significant part of my time. And like Nick Kay said, it's a situation where we again would see very different scenarios. If there was a slap because someone lost their temper, it was a little different than the significant situations where I would see someone burn their child's hand on the oven or things of that sort. So definitely those cases were always dismissed or dealt with programs that would allow the cases to be dropped at the end if we had more than one incident. But that's again where, as a prosecutor, I was able to use a discretion. As a judge, I wouldn't be dealing necessarily with those severe cases because I would be doing county at this point. But knowing and having that expertise would definitely assist me in being able to judge a case that comes before me and the facts that are before me. So thank you.
Definitely, we all would, I'm not going to say right, I would definitely use discretion. There are certain cases where there are minimum mandatories that we have to follow, and there's no choice there. But in the regular, everyday county court cases, judges do have discretion. You will take into a victim statement, impact statement, you will take into consideration the offender's family and his ties or her ties to the community. So yes, the discretion will always be used when you can. If there is a minimum mandatory, our hands are tied. And about the discipline of children, I've never had to deal with that in my career. I have advocated successfully twice to take children away from parents. And when you're a young lawyer and you do that, you're in court and you're pounding your chest, you're like, man, you did it, you know? And you get back to your office and you're like, oh my God, I just took a child away from a mother. I just took a child away from a father. And it really hits you because I'm a parent. But then you sit back and you realize you did it because it was the right thing to do. And that child is now safe. It's tough, I'm not going to lie. But I do know in my heart, the 2 times I've done it, it was the right thing to do.
I believe that a judge should look at each case individually, because people who come before you are individuals with their own set of facts, their own set of experiences, and their own set of circumstances. There is no cookie-cutter case and sentencing. So I believe when a judge who's given so much discretion, as a matter of fact, one of the rules say you should look at the sophistication of the act done. You should look at the age of the act done. There's so many things that judges can take into consideration when sentencing and using discretion. But that's why it's important that you vote for judges who have great experience and good, sound legal acumen. I will tell you that having tried over 150 cases to verdict and thousands of cases and bench trials, that part of why I believe that I understand and will use good discretion is because I've experienced over 25 years almost everything you can experience in courts. And as Nick Kay said, I'm a great lawyer. We have tried a lot of cases. And understanding the people that come before you is imperative. And if you don't understand, having the heart to listen is so critical. To listen to people, that makes such a difference. And that's what I believe in terms of discretion. And in juveniles, we have a lot of discretion. As you have heard, we can sentence kids back to the juvenile system instead of in prison. We can use our discretions for programs. And having worked for the Department of Juvenile Justice, created the programs for Miami-Dade County, Broward, Dade, and Monroe County. I know the programs and being able to put kids in programs using my discretion that can help them become better citizens is critical. In terms of the abuse, that's more than a minute, so you want me to move on?
So one of the reasons I have a lot of experience in circuit court, and I get this question, why are you running in county instead of circuit? Because in county court, you can use discretion, folks. And I love discretion. I think the best people in the best positions to decide cases and determine what is right, what is wrong, what is an appropriate sentence, what is an appropriate verdict, what is an appropriate resolution to a case is the people that are living, eating, breathing those cases, that are the state representatives, the criminal defense attorneys, the judges, and the litigants, whether it be in civil court or in criminal court. So in county court, as a magistrate now, I do that every day. It's all bench trials. I don't have jury trials. It's all bench trials. So it's all on me. I'm the one calling the shots, and I've been doing that for 7 years. As the 30 hearing officers that listened to 1.3 million tickets throughout this entire county that were issued in 2017, there are 30 hearing officers that listened to those 1.3 million tickets. And of those 30 hearing officers, there are 4 of us that are allowed to cover actual county court judge dockets, and I am blessed to say that I am one of those 4. So I think that the responsibility that you take on when you're dealing about discretion is an important responsibility and one I take seriously. With regards to the question on criminal justice reform, I think that is a multifaceted question. I think it's a philosophical question. I think it's a legal question. Criminal justice reform stems from the legislature, and you have politicians here who are going to be able to better talk to you about criminal justice reform. But from the judicial standpoint, I think, again, wherever there is discretion, the judges will use their discretion to do them. But I do think it begins with our own responsibilities as human beings to one another and to our legislature to try to give back the power to the judges that are probably more rightfully able to discuss how to resolve a criminal case.
To answer your question regarding the child abuse, it's so important to get judges and get people on the bench who have experience in the issue and the matter. I've been working with child abuse victims since I was a teen, since I was a little kid, and I still continue to do it now. For years, we had a center in Wynwood for neglected and abused children. There's a big difference, and you see that between abuse and corporal punishment or punishment at home. I know, my mother's Cuban, I used to be beaten on a regular basis. So I understand that. But there's a very big difference. And you see that not just when they come to the bench, you see that when they bring it in evidence, what the police report says, what the medical report says. So yes, there is a big gulf between child abuse and actual just punishment at home. And you have to understand the nuances between one and the other, because taking the child away from a parent is the most horrible thing you could do. It's the most traumatizing thing both for the parents and for the child. So if you do it, it has to be done under very strict circumstances. And again, as the other candidates have talked about, the good thing in county court is we do have discretion to look one way or the other and look at the totality of the instances. Was it a first time? Was it a second time? Does the child have marks? Has the child been abused in other circumstances? I've been working for years in domestic violence, and we see violence not just with other partners, and also usually when there's a domestic violence situation, sometimes it extends to the children. And there's alcohol and drugs involved many times. So it's a totality, you have to look at everything. And as many people said, we have the discretion of using different programs, diversion programs to put in both the children into counseling and put in the parents into those programs to try to keep that family unit together whenever possible. That's a very big goal. And your second point, it's very important also to note that the state legislature is the one who basically tells us the guidelines as to what we can do regarding criminal reform. Again, you need to have an open mind and to listen for the community, listen for the legislature, and then try to apply it as best you can. And, as I said, in county court, have the discretion to always err on the side of caution. And, like I said, if somebody's the first offense, second offense, you try to make sure, it's going to impact that person's life. Look at now with Amendment 4. A person could have a criminal charge, and they could have something as fundamental as a right to vote taken away from them. So you need, especially being a judge, you need to have temperament, you need to have understanding, you need to have a sense of compassion, while applying the law at the same time.
We are so thrilled to have had you speak to us today. We have one more question in closing, and again, we thank you.
So the Bible says the first shall be last and the last shall be first, so we'll start with you once again. So the question is, and answer this within 45 seconds. Why should this Haitian community vote for you?
Oh, very good question. Number one, I am part of the community. I love this community. I am part of Miami. Miami's in my blood, both Haitian, Cuban, Dominican. It doesn't matter. To me, Miami-Dade County, 305, 786 is one big family. I love this place. And I love everybody here. And I'm going to try to serve as best I can, representing everybody in this county as best I can. And one thing I've always said is, God willing, once I'm elected, my door is open. So please knock, please give criticism, please give suggestions, please talk to me without embarrassment. Just because I have a robot, I'll take it off. Bring me coffee, knock on the door, say, Mr. Mirabal, we have an issue concerning this. Please, I'm open. So that's one reason. I'm very community oriented. I love the place I live, and I'm going to try to make this, in my capacity, as better in Miami as I can, being a judge.
Again, my name is Milena Abreu, number 146 on the ballot. Because I've dedicated my life to the minority community, both professionally and personally. I am the daughter of immigrants who know the importance of being involved in a community, and that sense of value that you get from one another was instilled in me from a very young age. The ethics of hard work, perseverance, all of those things. And I try to do that every day, bringing it to the bench in the exact court where I seek to be elected. As a litigator, I have dedicated my entire professional and personal career to the representation of minority communities. I know this community. I've been serving it 20 years. I haven't been anywhere else but here in every single court across this entire county that is a beautiful Miami-Dade County. Because I'm dedicated to you, and now I need your help as well. Allow me to continue to serve humbly, thankfully, and with an open door always. There are cards on your chairs, folks. That's my personal cell phone. If you give me 24 to 48 hours, because I am campaigning, but I promise I will call back. My name is Milena. It's not Ms. Abreu. It's not Judge. It's not Your Honor. It's just me. And it'll always be me. Because once again, it's about just service and giving back. It went from there to here and out. And that you can't fake. You just can't. Milena Abreu. Thank you.
Dedicated to service, dedicated to my community, called to serve. I started to break out into Michael Jackson's song, I'll Be There. But I won't, but I will. You know, there are people who come, ask for your vote, and you don't see them again. But not me. I've been in this community. I have served this community for more than 25 years. I've worked in this community, dedicated my life to the community, to help people, including parents and grandparents. I'll be there. I'll be there for you. I'll be there in the courtroom, experienced attorney, qualified. I'll be there when you need someone to listen to what you have to say. I will be there. I will be there for this community. I've never left. It's a call. And see, there's a difference when you believe you're called to serve. And I've been called to serve.
Why? Because I am Miami-Dade County. I was born here, raised here, educated here. This is where I choose to live. I'm trying to become a county court judge. The county court is known as the people's court. And for the last 20 years, that's who I am. I represent hardworking people, just like you, me, who find themselves in need of a lawyer. Not necessarily for something bad. They need to be buying a house or a business. They need to be writing a will. I have practiced in both county and circuit court. I'm qualified. I'm ready to serve. I'm keeping it under 45 seconds. Vote for me, Michael Marquette, number 144. Thank you all.
So I'll try to make it quick too, but since you said something my mom used to always say, it reminded me of something else she used to say. She used to always tell me, character is what you do when you think no one is looking, right? Character is what you do when you think no one is looking. So who have I been when I wasn't up here? Who have I been outside of this campaign? And I encourage you, and I said, encourage you to look us all up. And if you look me up and you Google me and you do your research, you will notice that I have always dedicated my professional and personal career to public service. Since 2013, every single year, I've received 1 to 2 awards every single year for my community service with minorities. Last year, I received the 2017 Advocate of the Year for Miami-Dade County for my work in with minorities. In 2016, I also received another one from Maine Magazine. In 2015, I received the Woman of Giving Back. I can tell you that my character will show you that I am not putting on a facade simply because we're in a campaign. I'm doing this because it's what my heart tells me to do, and it's the right thing to do. So I ask for your vote, Christy Nunez, number 138, because this is my passion, this is my calling, this is my vocation. Thank you.
Good evening. Again, my name is Ola Nike Anabayo. On August 28th, I'm asking you to just do it, like Nike, to just vote 142. I'm not from here, I'm from Chicago, but coming here in law school in 1994, I decided to stay. And your community became my community. For community service, I'm a 5,000 role model mentor. I'm also a teen court judge with Michael. I go knocking on doors in my free time to make sure our uninsured women have mammograms. I'm big with making sure we're healthy, we're smart, and we're educated. So again, thank you guys for coming. I asked for your vote for the 20 past years. My whole service has been community service, and I live my life by this one principle. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth.
They give them another robust round of applause.
We will now be calling the candidates for State Representative District 108 to come up, please. I believe we have 2 candidates. Right. Jean Baudire and Dade Joseph. Now, the judges were somewhat politicians. These are the real politicians. It's getting serious.
I just see my people, so I got excited.
Is Mr. Beauville present? Well,
Joseph, will you introduce yourself for 2 minutes? Tell us who you are.
All right. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. No one said Doti Joseph. My name is Dade Joseph. I grew up in this community. I was born in Haiti, raised here. You know what? Can we just talk? You guys are my people. Is that okay? Can we do that? All right. So I grew up here. Went to public schools all throughout. I'm a proud product of Miami-Dade Public Schools. Studied hard. Went to Yale undergrad. Graduated from there by the grace of God and by all the public school teachers that poured their life and everything into me, encouraging me to just do what we need to do. Then I decided, you know what? I don't like discrimination. And some people like to sit around and complain and other people do. I'm one of those people that do. So I went to Georgetown Law and I became a civil rights attorney. I litigated class actions all around the United States. Some of them went up to the Supreme Court, and I unapologetically kicked butt. Then I came back home to serve. Now, before that, I'm going to tell you about a couple of different experiences. Some of the judges in the room will appreciate that. In high school, I interned at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office and decided that, you know what, I do not like our criminal justice system and I do not want to be an attorney. It's funny, life has a funny way of correcting things. And then while I was in college, I interned with Congressman Peter Deutsch, first in his district office in Florida, and they liked me so much, they invited me to go work on Capitol Hill as his legislative correspondent. And at that time, I decided, you know what, I do not like the way the sausage is made, and I didn't want to be a politician. Remember, I said that too. So then I went on and continued just working for the community, right? Because there are a lot of things we could do with those kind of law degrees, whether it's Yale or Georgetown. I could be making lots of money. But my passion is civil rights and human rights, whether it's here in the United States or abroad. I worked with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Egypt. I worked with organizations in Uganda, and it's the same struggle, right? When we're talking about refugees. When you leave your home, everything that you've known, to come to a strange land, it's because something crazy is going on at home that makes you have to leave, so you can have a better life for yourself and your family. And how you're received when you come to that place makes a difference. So in Uganda, the people were not being received well. So we went to the border counties and areas to teach the local officials how to receive these people under Ugandan law, under African law, and under international law. And unfortunately, it's the same struggle that we see here going on in the United States under the current administration, which is just heartbreaking because we used to be the standard. And there's a lot of craziness going on in Washington, D.C. and in Tallahassee right now. And quite frankly, we just need somebody there fighting for us because it makes a difference who's at the table. Because you know, if you're not at the table, you're likely on the menu. Right, and I'm tired of our communities being on the menu. And it makes a difference when you have somebody who can represent your interests there and understand your struggle. Whether you're talking about the fact that I'm the only woman in the race, whether you're talking about the fact that I'm the only legally trained person in the race, whether you're talking about the only person who actually shows up and cares to respect you. All of these things matter. And I appreciate the applause, but I really just want y'all to know that the reason I am here is because I am tired of being tired. And I know my time is probably up. Since they're not here, I'll just have them yield their time to me. I'll make a motion. No. I'll just be stopped now because I can just keep going.
Because the only thing, since we don't have Mr. Goodale, we're going to have to just ask you specific questions so that the audience really can benefit from your answers. And we're going to be very specific. For example, HANA, the Haitian American Nurses Association in particular, who has brought us here, is interested in healthcare. So we want to talk about healthcare. The Affordable Health Care Act, it's not state law, but there was implementation that was left for the states, and there were certain actions taken by the governor. What do you think about the Affordable Care Act, about healthcare being a privilege or a right? And what would you want to do as a state representative
So,
with regards to that?
I think healthcare should be a fundamental right. It shouldn't be something that's a privilege. It's something that everybody in this quote-unquote first world nation should be entitled to. When it comes to what's going on in Tallahassee, I think it's ridiculous that the current administration just decided to leave all this money on this table for healthcare expansion, Medicaid, Medicare expansion that could have been brought to our communities. And you know the reason they can do stuff like that is because they do not feel our pain. They don't understand what it means, whether you're like a retired nurse like my mom, or somebody who's struggling with disabilities, where you have to make these budget decisions of, am I going to pay for my medication, or am I going to pay my light bill? Am I going to put food on the table, or am I going to go visit this doctor? Am I going to make this? They don't have to make those decisions because they just write their check, charge their cards, do their Medicaid fraud, and call it a day, right? So, I mean, like that's the MO. But when you have somebody who understands what it means to make those decisions, it makes a difference. Now, when we talk about our healthcare system, there are so many things that need to be fixed. And some of those things had started to be fixed under the Affordable Health Care Act whether we're talking about making sure that people with pre-existing conditions could get coverage, which now they've just taken away, right? I don't know if you've been paying attention, but we no longer have that required coverage. In addition to that, there are certain things that could have been done in terms of, okay, you guys are medical care providers. There are lots of different courses of treatment that you can recommend. You can recommend something that puts profits over people because this pharmaceutical company or this insurance company is giving you extra incentives to recommend that course of treatment. Or we can have standardized care where this particular ailment is better treated by this particular thing, which is better for the patient because it actually addresses what outcomes and justice and equality and those kinds of values first. And that makes a difference. And there are a lot of things that we could do at the state level that don't even have to get involved at the national level. Because sitting here today, I was involved in not one, not two, but 3 car accidents, none of which were my fault. And if I'm here sitting here today, it's solely by the grace of God. And I tell you this because it has given me firsthand experience of what people deal with, whether you're talking about how it's going to be billed through healthcare versus how it's going to be billed through PIP, and all the drama that ensues between there. And there's a lot of misuse and abuse of the system because 1, people don't understand what's going on. 2, nobody's holding these insurance companies accountable. 3, I mean, people are just trying to rake in money. And it's not about caring for the patient. It's not getting people healthier. And I think we need to get to the point that that matters. Last thing I'm going to say on this topic is we need to make sure that the care is adequate. What do I mean by that? As a CNA, as a RN, as whatever, we need to make sure that you have adequate coverage and they're not overtaxing you by putting you with all these patients and there's no way that you can care for all of these patients. It needs to be enough so that you can actually maintain a certain quality of care, and it's not just about how much money the clinic can bring in, because what that does is it taxes you guys and other people too.
So we have a question from one of the nursing students from St. Thomas University. It goes, California and Massachusetts passed legislation on mandatory nurse-patient ratios, but only California has implemented such legislation. In Florida, with more than 325,000 licensed nurses, the #1 reason why a nurse leaves the bedside is because burnout due to overwork and lack of staffing. All future nurses, we feel the safe staffing billing will be one of the great benefits to the profession. What are your views or stand on the safe staffing bill for the state of Florida?
As you can tell by my prior response, I wholeheartedly agree. And I think it's something that we totally should implement and not just give lip service, whether we're talking about the nurse-patient ratio in terms of RNs, but also CNAs, right? Because sometimes they just put everything on the CNA and then they have to do all this extra stuff and it's still not enough, right? So we need to make sure that the ultimate goal is to take care of the patient, the same way with the school system. The ultimate goal is to make sure the kid gets educated. The reason that we're talking about the student-teacher ratio is not just because we can't put in more students. You always can put in more students, but what is the quality of that education? Similarly here, what is the quality of that care? And if the goal is to care for the patient, then we need to do everything in our power to facilitate that, including implementing an appropriate nurse-to-patient ratio.
Dade, your views on charter schools, public schools, that's it.
All right. So I am a big proponent of school choice in the sense that a parent and a child need to have the opportunity to decide what's the best fit for them. As I mentioned, I'm a proud product of Miami-Dade Public Schools. But within those public schools, from Charles Drew, I did a magnet art program in fine arts. Yes, I used to do fine arts. And then I also went on to do a magnet program in design and architecture. Yes, I used to do fashion design. So those were all in my past life, but those are choices that we made. So I'm good with you deciding what's good for you and your child. However, public funds should be used for public schools in general. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education. For those who do not know, that is the U.S. Supreme Court that determined that separate was inherently unequal. Now, that being said, what you have in our school systems is that some schools are taken care of and other schools are not. And unfortunately, a lot of that depends on race, and that's layered with economic disparities and a whole history of structural racism issues that we don't have time to get into today. But the point is, I want to make sure that regardless of what zip code you are in, you have access to a quality education. Now, let me take it a step further. I am not a big fan of double standards. I'm all about equality and justice, in case you didn't pick that up before. I'm reminding you now. So, I am not okay when you start everybody at the finish line. By everybody, I mean public schools, charter schools, private schools, fill in the blank schools, right? Everybody starts at the starting line, but you shackle public schools with required testing that doesn't even make sense. You shackle them with anti-discrimination provisions, which I think are important. You shackle them with teacher requirements to make sure that teachers are certified to teach your kids what they're supposed to, but none of these provisions apply to these other institutions. That makes no sense. How are you going to have these people teaching your students and they're not even certified to be a teacher? And what you have is this really perverse incentive where people can basically siphon monies from the public education system and send them to these other schools, and the funding follows the child out. But if that child, let's say, God forbid, they're discriminated against, or their disability is not properly addressed, or fill in the blank, or maybe they're just not getting a good education. Maybe they're just being fed and sent to, nap time, right? And they're not learning anything. And you as a parent decide to send that child back to public school, guess what? The funding stays out there. Does that make any sense to you? No, that is not fair. So things just need to make sense, and we need to get to the point where we're holding these people accountable. Right now, I will tell you that the person that I'm running against for the seat, the incumbent who holds the seat right now, is the only Democrat that voted with the Republicans on this crazy education bill that basically siphoned money from the public education system and sent them over to charter schools. And he did this at the behest of the Republican Speaker of the House, whose wife just happened to own a huge share in these charter schools, and had the nerve to bring them down to our district to try to sell it to us like it's a good thing. We're not buying that bill of goods. Our eyes are open, we are paying attention, and no, we're not buying it.
Since I have to say, since there's no other candidate, you get one more question. You do. But this question is going to be one that permits you to share what you think is most important. And the question is this. As a state representative, you're one of, give me the number, Dade, 120. Okay. So you're one of 120. Therefore, your impact, right, is limited. Explain to the audience what it is that you can do individually as one person in this, out of 120, to move your agenda forward. And which agenda would you be trying to really strive for once you get up there?
Sure. So, as a Democrat in the House, we're either going to be in the minority or the super minority, depending on what happens with the elections. So, my approach is not going to be to stick with partisan politics. That's not the goal. But I think that whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think at the end of the day, we all want basically the same things. We want a safe place to live. We want a good education for our kids. We want to be able to earn enough income, however that is, whether it's through a job or a business or whatever you have going on, so that we can provide for our families with dignity. I think that applies across the aisle. Now, that being said, finding points of commonality as opposed to focusing on points of contention is one of the things that I'd be looking to do. Because I think there is a lot of room for compromise, and I think there is a lot of room for some serious collaboration on some real things that impact everybody in the state. And if my focus is that way, I think that we can have enough support coming from across both aisles so that we can get some major legislation done. Now, that's not to discount that there are some fundamental differences in approaches on certain things. But when we're talking about things like climate change, who can disagree with that? I mean, there was a point in time where the current governor would not allow people to say words like climate change, but all of a sudden, it's an election year, he acknowledges it exists. Okay, fine, we have some room, we have something that we can start to work with. Whether we're talking about affordable housing, while some people don't recognize it to be an issue, I think in most of the districts throughout the state, actually, and particularly in South Florida, this is something that is a real crisis. And one of the things that I would like to do is make sure that the funds that already exist, both at the state level and locally at the county level, are actually used for the purpose for which they were intended, which is to help generate programs to preserve and expand affordable housing. That's something really basic that we can do. There are a whole host of other things that I'd like to do. I would like to repeal stand your ground laws. I think they have a disproportionately negative impact on communities of color. I think the standards and the burden, basically, which goes on the dead person to prove, I mean, like, it's really, c'est incroyable. Like, deep breath. There are a lot of things that need to be fixed in the criminal justice system, not that, in terms of mandatory minimum sentencing requirements and a whole host of other things that apply that many of the judges in the room can tell you a whole lot more about. But my point is, all it takes is one clear voice of reason to make an impact on everybody in the room. There are certain arguments that won't stand when you have somebody there to challenge them. But if you don't have somebody there to challenge them, guess what? Foolishness will reign, right? You ever been in a room where people are saying, oh, yeah. And then somebody says, well, no, what about this? Oh, okay, you're right. And then the whole thing dissipates. If we have more voices of reason in the room, we'll have less foolishness going on in Tallahassee. And I think that that's one thing that I bring, is I am a voice of reason. I, as you can see, am articulate, and I understand the issues, and I'm pretty darn good advocate.
Thank you, Dade, candidate for District 108.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate it.
We will now be hearing from our gubernatorial candidates, Mr. John Weatherby and Mr. Alex Lundy Landmark.
My name is John Weatherby, and I'm running for governor of this great state of Florida. A friend asked me, why are you running for governor? I said that I want to contribute to the people of Florida. I want to make the quality of life better for the people of Florida. And I want that opportunity. I want to do something that is difficult. I like challenging things. I decided to go to the University of Florida because it was a challenging school. I decided to go for a chemistry degree because it was challenging. I like the challenging things. I believe that if you allow me the opportunity to be a governor, I can make the state better. I believe in healthcare, providing healthcare for everybody. Anyways, let me have a few words, so I'm not going to say anything else. Thank you.
All right. My name is Lundy Landmark, and I am running for governor on Democratic ticket. Now, many of you, probably all of you, have not heard of me. I am a Rotarian. I am an Eagle Scout. I am a realtor. I am a pilot, and I am a first-generation immigrant. I was born in Russia. I was adopted by a loving family at age 10. I grew up in Vero Beach, Florida. I went to Indian River State College and UCF. I majored in business financing, emphasis in real estate. I was very fortunate to retire at around age 31. And before I committed to this governor journey, I flew as much as possible, accumulating hours and skill level to get into the airlines. And the reason I ran is because I saw the first 3 debates, and it didn't excite me about the future of Florida. And I ran for you. I ran to give you another, different, better choice.
Question is, how do you promote community and how do you promote coordination of care and access to the continuum of quality care, including prevention, mental health, long-term, and end-of-life services?
Hey, that's a nice question. What I intend to do is provide health care for the people that need health care first. What I intend to do is provide health care to the people that need health care in the state of Florida. There's a lot of people like myself that have insurance and don't need health care. But for the people that do need health care, I will do my best to provide that. If eventually we find out that everybody would like health care, we will support a statewide funded health care benefits for everybody.
I hate beating a dead horse in the sense that healthcare, of course, it's a given. I do everything I can to make sure everybody has access to it. What I really do want to focus on is the elderly care. One of the things I want to do is get people out of nursing homes and keep them in their personal homes as long as possible with dignity and independence. And that is because of the difference between home care and nursing home. There's 4 times different. The state pays about $6,600 per person per year for home care, whereas they spend $27,000 per person per year for nursing home. And that 27 is not the full picture. The full picture is $60,000 per person per year for nursing homes. The difference between 27 and 60 comes from the federal government. So if we can structure a system where we keep more people in homes, it would open a lot of funds for our community.
How are your political views similar to the current governors, and how are they different? Basically, we have a governor right now. He has policies, and everybody knows in the room what these policies all have been. Do you feel that you share his views in one or another way, or you do not share his views and these are your views? We just want to understand the difference, the nuance between you, the candidate, and the governor we now have.
I am a Democrat, and I disagree with much of what the governor has done. He's cut back on education. I have a daughter that's a second-grade teacher, and she's having a tough time meeting her bills. I don't agree with his cutback of education funding. I don't agree with the fact that he did not place the banning of assault rifles in the Public Safety Act. I just don't agree with much of the things he does, and I just put up what my goal is to learn what people's needs are and meet their needs. That's what I do.
In a nutshell, outside looking in, I would say that Rick really focuses more on businesses, favoring of businesses over the public. And I think that's where I would differ in a sense. When it comes to, the gun law he just passed, I think it was a little too fast. I understand the circumstance. So I would like to definitely bring that back to 18 on 2 conditions. The gun's registered and it's not an assault rifle. I think that's a fair thing in the concept that you're an adult at 18, you can live on your own, so you should have the right to protect yourself.
What steps will you take to address the current fragmentation in healthcare?
Fragmentation
in healthcare.
Yeah, can you give me a more specific question in the sense of?
So I believe the question is referring to the different laws that are passed in healthcare that may not be of benefit to the citizens.
I'll be honest, I don't know particular instances, and so I feel I would feel stupid BSing through that question unless you give me more specific examples, and I'll tell you my thoughts.
I think we're moving on to the next question. So, you've mentioned a couple of things where you differ from Governor Rick Scott. What we're looking for, what are the key policies that you would promote as governor? Which are the things you're going to be pushing forward?
My mom is an immigrant from Nicaragua. I lived in El Salvador for 9 years. I didn't speak English till I was 10. So I fully support immigration. Any way that I can increase the cap on people coming into the state, I'll do that. I love immigrants. I lived in El Salvador until I was 10 years old, and I came back to the States. I am almost an immigrant. I support immigration policy for the immigrants. And again, assault rifles, I think it should be banned. Okay?
Okay, great question. If you go to my website, govlundy.com, it will spell out what I want to focus on. I want to focus on restructuring our education system completely. You guys have my postcard. Those are the bare bones of what I see our education system being in the state of Florida. It is unique, it is different. We're the only ones that are going to have it. That's going to be my number one goal. Another goal is going to be, I'm planning on reducing prison population by 50%. I want to do a gun reform, and I want to do a police reform. And in between those three main points, I have a bunch of miscellaneous that I'm going to focus on, and those miscellaneous are on the website. And it literally will spell out how my mind is thinking of what I want to accomplish for our community. So I highly encourage you to go to that website. It will be worth your time.
Would you like to make one more statement in closing as a reason why the Haitian American community should vote for you?
Once again, I ran for you to give you another option. If you truly want to get money out of politics, here's your opportunity. If you truly want to restructure our education system, here's your opportunity. We are where we are today because of the choices we made yesterday. I encourage you to choose to share my vision of Florida with your friends and family, and I encourage you to choose to vote for me because it's my creativity and compassion that will move Florida in a better direction.
What I intend to do as your governor is listen to your needs, whatever they are. Immigrants, I support immigration. I will increase the numbers of the cap coming in here. It's a very difficult job, but I think I can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your participation.
I'd like to acknowledge all the students from St. Thomas University. Please say hello and wave. Okay, well, we appreciate Professor Louis for bringing her students to participate. Thank you.
We'd like to call Mr. Howard Nepper, United States Senate candidate, and Mr. Jason Pizzo, State Senate candidate.
I'll wait for Senator. Yeah, you said no. I'll wait for her.
Apparently they had another event somewhere.
Mr. Nepper realizes that we're losing attendance. He said he will be very brief in his presentation, so we'll ask him to introduce himself and to basically tell us why we should vote for him.
First of all, I want to thank HANA for inviting me. It's an important organization. I'm very familiar with the Haitian community. I have interacted with the Haitian community from the standpoint that my mortgage company has assisted for 25 years the Haitian community in funding where they couldn't get funding. And I truly know from my heart how important it is for what HANA does, what nurses do. It's very important. And I'm also proud of all of the candidates that came here tonight. I was touched by every one of them, and everyone that came here obviously really care about our state and our community in Miami. But I am running for the United States Senate. I'm a three-time United States Senate candidate. I have had a tough time with Senator Rubio in the last election, but that has not completely been decided yet. There's some issues that will be coming out soon about that race with Mr. Rubio, whether there was any illegalities. However, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to take them. But I have a website, and I'm pretty broad on all the issues. Care about our state very much, especially the immigration issues and many other issues that I'm very vocal about. Okay? Any questions?
No, you covered the topic for now. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
This is highly unlikely, but we're going to go ahead and ask the moderator to. Yeah, Mr. Pizzo, I have spoken with Senator Campbell a little while ago. She said that she was at another event that she would be coming. So time is of the essence. It's getting late. So if you don't, okay, he doesn't mind. So you don't mind someone else come up?
Is she definitely coming?
She said she would.
Then I'll happy to wait. I'll figure out a way.
Okay, so, all right, so,
I apologize. Rare is the opportunity I have to actually sit at the same table with Senator Campbell, so I'm happy to wait all day.
Since we are going to give it a few more minutes for Senator Campbell, but really just 5 more minutes because we'll have to move on. We can't keep the people here. So during that 5-minute period, we will ask Linda Hodges, who's running for City Council of Miami Gardens, to come up since she had not RSVP, but she is here. She could have an opportunity to introduce herself and if you would mind, in 2 minutes, just introduce yourself, who you are, why you're running, and why you want our vote.
Thank you for this opportunity. Again, my thanks to Hannah and our moderators for allowing me this opportunity. My name is Linda Hodges Holloway. My ballot number is 190. I am a candidate for the City of Miami Gardens Council, Seat 2, which primarily takes into Lake Lucerne. I don't know if many of you are familiar with that. Without going into all the details about that, a little bit about me. I am Miami-Dade, a graduate of Miami-Dade College. Back then we said Miami-Dade Junior College, now college. I am a 1999 graduate of Florida Memorial University, the only HBCU located in South Florida next to St. Thomas. As a graduate, at the age of 48, I graduated summa cum laude and with the highest achievement in my class. As far as my profession, I retired from AT&T after 30 years of service there and have been retired for the last 16 years. With that time, I have been advocating for the city of Miami Gardens as it relates to making sure that all of our citizens, including our Haitian American community, are living healthy, safe, as well as wealthy lives in Miami Gardens. I am Miami Gardens. I love Miami Gardens, have lived and served there for over 34 plus years, and will continue to do so. I am the only female candidate in the race. There are 2 other males that are also in this race as far as seat 2 is concerned. I am celebrating 47 years of marriage to Dr. Wilbert T. Holloway, who many of you know him. Yes, as of tonight, and I'm here. And I know he's 47 years of marriage. From that union, we have 4 sons and daughters in love. One of our daughters in love is here with me tonight. And 11 grands. My primary focus as it relates to why I'm a candidate, I believe that I will have an impact as it relates to making sure that Miami Gardens, first of all, the perception that we are murder gardens, and we are not. We are Miami Gardens. I am Miami Gardens. Again, my primary focus is to make sure that all who live, work, play, pray, hire, and retire in Miami Gardens are living a healthy, wealthy, secure, and safe life. Bottom line, I love Miami Gardens, and whatever you need is in Miami Gardens. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Now it looks as if Mr. Pizzo, will you speak with alone?
Yes, absolutely.
I will tell you, there's a young girl that wants 3 balloons for staying here down there. I told her yes, I can't disappoint her. So. Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Pizzo, you'll start with the same 2 minutes. Introduce yourself and your goals.
Good evening. My name is Jason Pizzo. For the 7 of you who don't know who I am, I'm running for State Senate District 38, 15 cities. I am a father, a husband. I have 2 wonderful boys who I choose to be my moral compass. I want to talk to you very briefly about the race that's coming up. The election is August 28th. There are only 2 candidates in the Senate District 38 race. And there's a clear, distinct difference between the 2 candidates. Like all organizations, all families, all businesses, all designs, all passions that we have, there comes a time when one generation or one individual or one place must step aside for somebody else. It's not based on race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, or geography. It's based on the critical need of any community at any given time. And right now, 16-year-old boys are killing 16-year-old boys, and many of you nurses are tending to them at Jackson Hospital and North Shore. There is a trauma that is bleeding through an entire community of overwhelmingly single-parent households, where I, as a prosecutor, gleaned that young individuals do not have what I had, what I was so fortunate to have. It's not the dollars, the size of the house, or the number of cars. I had my father. I was terrified to disappoint him and not make him proud of me. I had no interest or desire really to go beyond the 4 years of college we're all told we have to do. But I got into Columbia, Ivy League school for my master's, and a tear ran down his hard-working manual labor Italian Sicilian peasant hand in his face. and said, "This is America." When I came down to Miami with my infant kids, I saw that there's an entire generation of kids who don't have that piece of America. And guess what? 5 of you have grandparents that were born in Miami. The rest of us are all immigrants. The rest of us all came here because we had to. Our parents came here because they had to. Our grandparents came because they had to. Each successive generation has to sacrifice less. They get things easier. Some of them do, not everybody. When I was growing up, my father said, "Be careful of all those guys who say, 'Hey, I'm Italian, you're Italian, huh? We're Italian.'" They would like to skip over the merit, the hard work, the work ethic, to get to a place in your confidence or in your wallet or in your vote because they look like you. Well, guess what? My kids look like me. And while I was a prosecutor, I spent 100, 120 hours a week responding to shootings and homicides involving the kids at the same age as my sons. You know what I did? I missed baseball games and breakfasts and dinners and lunches, movies and snuggling and putting them to bed and seeing them in the morning. How did they see me? They saw me in the mornings, waking up, eating Cheerios, looking at the latest crime scene on the news of their dad standing over a tarp covering a dead body. So I leaned on my kids and I leaned on my family for that time. Politicians do the same thing. Sometimes they look at you. They look like you. They say things that sound familiar. Kind of remind you a little bit of your mom, a little bit of your aunt, a little bit of your daughter, a little bit of your sister. And it's sentimental. But guess what? You let 2 years pass, 4 years pass, 6 years pass, 8 years pass, and nothing's gotten done. Well, let's be honest. We have uncles and aunts and brothers and cousins that we loan money to, keep them on the payroll, let them get away with stuff, not worry about paying us back. We let it slide. Well, that's what you have right now. You're letting it slide. While you're letting it slide, kids are getting killed. Your children are getting $7,000 a year spent on their public education, while New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut spend $20,000, $21,000. We're leaving $5.1 billion on the table from the federal government for Medicaid expansion. Nurses are seeing the trauma that comes in here. And let me make an apology. If there was one safe haven for my opponent to come to, you would think it would be the Haitian American Nurses Association, whose creed and credo, origination and genesis, the formation and collective, the aggregate sentiment and soul of this organization is to what? Is to help people. I remember the last 2 lines of the Nurses Pledge. My wife just spent the last 3 weeks in the hospital, tended to by some wonderful women, 4 out of 5 Haitian American. And I asked if I could see a copy of the Nightingale Pledge. How many of you remember the Nightingale Pledge? Any of you? Right. There's been 3 variations. The last variation that's come out to make it easier for this generation to memorize it because they have to do it.
I know.
It's to raise the standard of ethics. Not allow it, not permit it, not be okay with violations. So listen, those same 12-year-old boys that I had, they're identical twins, they're wonderful, I love them, they're my moral compass. They're the reason why I can pick up the trash when I see it on the ground. Do the right thing when no one's looking, like Christy Nooney I said before. They're my moral compass. They've seen terrible things. The kindergarten teacher's son was decapitated by ISIS. You saw it on CNN when they were in kindergarten. I had armed teenagers, 16 years old, come to my home in the middle of the night in November of 2012. But I went back to work the next day. Let me tell you this. My kids deserve better. Every one of you deserve better. And I'm going to give you all permission to do something. And I don't mean to sound sarcastic when I say this. Many of you in this room are put in very, very difficult situations. You run foundations or charities or businesses. You have to make public appearances. You have to be so careful, juggling individually, invisibly. Who you have to be nice to and take photos with, who you have to ask for money, who you have to ask for favors. Oh, don't talk to that person because that person's not liked by this person. I give you permission to walk out of this room and trash talk Pizzo all day long. You can go ahead and talk all day long you want about it. On August 28th, when you go inside the booth, I'm trying to make eye contact with each and every one of you. I know 40 of you, but I don't know 36 of you. I want you each, when you go in the booth, to say, you know what, after 8 years, let me give the other guy a try. Let me give the other guy a try. Because you know what? If he screws up, I can say it's because I was Haitian he screwed up. I can say because I was a woman he didn't understand and appreciate my values. So I'm going to brag a little bit. I'm sitting at a table at Miami-Dade College, endorsed by the United Faculty of Miami-Dade College. I am speaking to a group of professional women nurses who should be proud, and I was just endorsed by SCIU, representing 55,000 working and retired nurses in the state of Florida. I have been endorsed by the National Organization of Women. And my kids think I do a better job. August 28th, Jason Pizzle, number 91. Thank you.
Mr. Pizzle, before you leave, we would like you, as you know, you're here in the Haitian American community, right? Invited by female Haitian American nurses, so you know that this would be a location where your opponent would have some strength. You agree? So we need to tell everyone, you need to share with us, why is it that you would have obtained better results for this community, and what specific agenda you have that would make it so?
I believe honestly that it's not that this is her strength. I believe that this is taken for granted and taken advantage of. I think she assumes that she has all of your vote, all of your confidence, and all of your support. There's a big difference between the assumption and taking it for granted and earning it. I earn my kids' love. I earn the beatings I get from my wife. I earn those. But let me just say this. I have a few very specific technical things that I would like to change in the legislature that really don't sound that sexy, but they're going to legitimately, objectively save lives. I'm for the registration of shell casings when they come from manufacture before they even hit the stores, before Second Amendment or NRA right attaches. Doing so would prevent the loss of lives and shootings at Jackson Hospital. All of you know this. Outside these doors, they don't know this. The number of lives and the higher homicide rate the state of Florida would have if it weren't for places like Jackson Hospital and Aventura and things like that save lives, that trauma centers are made. I also want an exception to the warrant requirement of felony being committed in the home. As the average shooter is 16 and 17 in several parts of our district, I believe that those that are on social media, the several thousand teenagers I had brandishing weapons, we should be able to knock on their door. I am not for a jump out squad coming and searching and seizing every individual. That's not what's right for the community. More of an incision, more of a specific thing. Again, I think I can get behind the idea that a group such as the Haitian American nurses would want one of their own Haitian American nurses to make it, to get to the top. But given the opportunity, show us why you got there. Do something while you're there. Show us why you got there. Live up to the highest creed and profession of listen to the doctor or nurse who's supervising me in the command of my duties. Do it. You had 8 years. What have you done? To save a life, to improve a life. What have you done?
Final question, is there anything specific you could point to that would indicate that the failure of the incumbent?
He showed up. She never showed up.
That was from Mr. Pizzo.
Let me say this. Let me say this. I want to be just very clear. There's a little civics lesson I have to give myself. There are 15 cities in District 38. Aventura, Golden Beach, Bay Harbor, Val Harbor, Indian Creek, El Portal, Miami Shores, North Bay Village, City of Miami, sections of Overtown, Brownsville, and Overtown, Liberty City, Little Haiti in the City of Miami. Guys, there's North Miami, there's 15 cities. This is an open primary. On August 28th, every black, white, and Hispanic person can vote. Every Democrat, Independent, and Republican can vote. Can't say that about any other race going on in Miami-Dade County. Why? Because they busted my butt to get us in this position. So here we are. The demographic is split. It is almost 33, 33, 33, white, black, and Hispanic. So let me just make it clear. That's the demographic. You want me to point to failures? Yes. After Hurricane Irma, we all found out that 14 seniors died in Hollywood, right, in Broward County. Your senator in 2012 tried to pass House Bill 4045, which would have kept all violations of nursing homes private from public view. After the hurricane, your senator texted an FPL lobbyist to get her power back on because her mother was sick on oxygen. Here's a mistake she made. She ran against an ex-prosecutor. I found out her mother died 20 years ago. She said it on YouTube, on an evangelical broadcast. Maybe it was a joke, but I don't think it's appropriate for your state senator, one of 40, controlling an $88.7 billion budget, trickling only down $7,000 per student, should accept a purse from a guy who wants to skip the line to get a medical license, and then take a wad of cash when she's doing it. Also on video. And I think that your state representative, your state senator, your mayor should live in a district where they serve. She did not. Those are ethical things. But I'm not going to win this race by telling you how terrible my opponent is. I'm going to win this race because I have a clear idea and sense of how to fund education, of how to improve healthcare. My life before being a lawyer and a prosecutor was building tens of thousands of units, most of them affordable in multifamily, which we have to do here to prevent gentrification. We have an inclusionary zoning, 20% components in every area. And quite honestly, it's just, I have the inability not to be honest, to the point where it's a little awkward and uncomfortable in some situations. Because the truth is the easiest thing to remember. And I don't have a chip on my shoulder, and my weakness are my kids. And I do it for the children, and I will tell you that the most critical issues in our district revolve around the current and future of our kids, whether they'll have an environment that's not underwater, an education that will get them skilled enough to become the skilled workers that we're trying to draw, and will they be safe and safe?
Thank you very much, Mr. Cooper. We appreciate your comments. Good night, all. No more candidates.
Ladies and gentlemen, just wait a second. Closing remarks.
Just 1 minute for closing remarks, please. And again, I would like to reiterate the disclaimer that the Haitian American Nurses Association is a bipartisan, non-for-profit organization. We do not endorse any political party or candidates. This is just for educational purposes for our members and the community. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Madam President Eloi to come forward and present the certificate of appreciation. I would like to thank the following sponsors and contributors. All the refreshments you see here this evening are from the individual members who have contributed their own money. And I would like to thank Dr. Naomi Merville, Rose Valsin, Chair of Activity, the hospitality team who prepared the refreshments, Jacinthe Montalban, the Chair of Hospitality, and her team, Caroline and Danique. Okay, we want to thank them. And we want to thank the Legislative Affairs Committee, who has worked very hard to put this candidate forum together. My three co-chairs, Pauline Louis-Magiste, Nancy Henry, Fayola Delica, and of course our very hardworking members who are part of the Legislative Affairs Committee, Yatanel Dominique and Barbara Destiné. Marjorie Lozama, and of course, we want to thank our own president for being here and supporting this event. So at this time, we would like to also thank Dorothy Leveille, thank you, Dorothy, and the Haitian American Professionals Coalition, who has contributed the water. Our Vice President, Nadine Barreau, who also has contributed water, And of course, I contributed as well. But anyway, we just want to say thank you to all of the members, who, individual members who said, we want this to be successful, and they have put out the money and really wanted to give you some refreshments. Madam President.
So, again, I piggyback on Dr. Etienne. Thank you very much to everyone who played a role in making this successful event, and thank you to all of our candidates who came out tonight to allow us to hear their platform and what they plan on doing for the community. The Mayor of Aventura.
Yeah, the Mayor of Aventura.
Oh, come on up.
She's the mayor. She's running for re-election.
Okay.
Yes.
While she comes up, I'm going to go ahead and do the presentation of to our advisor, our beautiful advisor, who is always here supporting HANA. Thank you so much, Attorney Michelle Austin Cummings, right? Yes. Thank you so much in appreciation for your volunteer services as a moderator for the Candidate Forum 2018, given on Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. Thank you so much. Jefferson Noel, who is also an awardee this year at our 2018 Gala for Community Service Award. So thank you. Also, we want to present this certificate to Jefferson Noel in appreciation for your volunteer services as a moderator for the Candidate Forum 2018, given on Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. Again, thank you guys so much.
Okay, I'm Enid Wiseman. I'm the mayor of Aventura. I'm not here as a candidate tonight. I'm not here as a candidate. I am, but that's not why I'm here. I'm also on the chair of the Aventura Hospital. And I knew this was a nursing event, and I wanted the nurses at Aventura to know that they had a voice in government. Unfortunately, so many people left. But I will say, the people that are left, you will go to the poll. You came here. You have to think whether they were judges, people running for the Senate, people running for governor. Those are the people that cared enough to come and address you. And that makes all the difference to me. You have to show up when people need you. And many of you know me because I work for Dade County Public Schools, the region superintendent. All the schools from Aventura to South Beach, including North Miami, were all my schools. I started out in Horace Mann. I was a member of the Haitian American Foundation, going way back 30 years ago. I've got some very deep roots. I just wish more of the candidates would have showed up tonight. But you clearly saw the people that cared enough to come. So I just want you to vote your conscience, do what you think is right for you and your children. And have a good evening.